What do you think of when you think of the word knowledge? Is it an apple, epistemology, Skillshare? Not yet. Well, in 18th century France, it was the Encyclopedia, or the Encyclopedia, one book that contained all of human knowledge, but the people that wrote it said too much. This is how one book fought the kings, queens, and popes, and kind of reshaped Europe in the process. You might be thinking, haven't they been doing stuff like that forever? Well, that's true. The original idea for the Encyclopedia was to translate an English book, but Denis Diderot, the editor, his plans are bigger. He wants to make a French version. I want to cover everything. People are excited, until Diderot gets arrested. Louis XIV, the King of France, was super paranoid. He's had to deal with 11 civil wars since he was 10, and a religious war against non-Catholics. His son, Louis XV, felt the same way. Diderot wrote, "Come on, all this religious nitpicking is so dumb, even a blind man can see it. Isn't it better just to not care about religion?" But people started hearing about this idea of a book of knowledge, and saw there's money in it. So the publishers in France need to get Diderot out of prison. Can you let him out please? We need him. Can you let him out please? We need him. Can you let him out please? We need him. I won't let him out yet, but I'll let him write from prison. But Diderot is kind of pissed after a year of being incarcerated. He's not exactly going to be impartial, but he's got to be subtle. Volume 1 gets finished, and there's fun stuff like the Agrixima. Agrixima, a plant growing in Brazil and on the islands of South America. That's all we know about it. Who the hell is this useful to? Regardless, I mention this plant here, along with several others that are just as poorly described, out of consideration for certain readers who prefer to find nothing in an article, or even to find something stupid, than to find nothing at all. And then there's the stuff on religion. It was written by somebody else, but the guy that wrote it was too good at explaining. For Noah's Ark, he does a full analysis of the size, material, and cargo, saying it would have been way bigger than the Bible said, inadvertently calling the Bible stupid. But no, the main thing, the unforgivable sacrilege, was on the contents page. Diderot divides the stuff into memory/history, reason/philosophy, imagination/poetry. But they put religion under philosophy, and they put religion leading to black magic and superstition. Not a huge deal, but still making some people annoyed, and gets Diderot on some people's radar. Especially the Jesuits, the people that ran the church. So Diderot starts writing the second volume. Way more subtle and non-controversial, and he even got some help to write the articles. And that guy fucked it all up, Martin de Prades. He wrote an article for the Encyclopedia, but he also at the same time gave his master thesis to the Sorbonne University, the most famous university in France. I don't have a copy of it and I can't speak French, but it's heretical, so people are mad. This was enough. The Encyclopedia was bashing religion, and that insults the king. The king sees all this idea of them subtly bashing religion and orders the book to be banned. But one person wants to save the project, the chief censor of France, Maulebert. See, he likes the idea, thinks the idea of all knowledge in one book is good, and he doesn't want to see it stop, but he has to convince the church and the king. Think of the profit, think of the clout. Every other country has some really good cultural exports, and we're throwing away the greatest book in the world? Come on, that's stupid. How about you appoint people that can personally censor the book? The king says, okay, that's fine. Now Diderot writes volume 3, and considering what happens, he makes it super non-controversial, and publishes it. And then he wakes up one morning, realising this book is the only thing he's been doing with his life for the past 3 years. All the people that contributed to the book, published plays, mathematical proofs, travelled Europe, and all he's doing is editing a glorified dictionary. Why is he doing this? It's taking so long, there's so many articles to write. It's been 4 years and he only has 4,000 subscribers. Is it really worth it? Who are you really talking about? Anyway, he hands the work over to some other people, Louis Chevalier and Jean d'Alembert. They finish the next volume, just in time for the king to get stabbed. The guy that did it, Robert Francois Damiens. They ask him, why have you done this? I did it for God and the people. France is dying. The main reason was he was a religious nutcase, and considering the encyclopedists bash religion, they were once again in the king's crosshairs. And the king really needs to deal with all this religious stuff, because he's going to war. It's about this time the co-editor, d'Alembert, was talking with somebody, Voltaire. I can't go into detail about him because this is supposed to be a short video. And he's asking advice about this article he's writing, a small city called Geneva. Voltaire says, come on, why are you guys hiding behind all these subtle definitions and everything? Knowledge is supposed to be free. Speak truth to power. Meanwhile, Voltaire is not living in France, he's living an entire country away. D'Alembert writes about the city. Several no longer believe in the divinity of Jesus Christ, which Calvin, their leader, so zealously defended, he burned somebody at the stake for it. The Genevans are pissed, because they were catching strays for literally no reason, and the French were pissed because he also writes in the same definition, the clergy of Geneva have exemplary morals. The ministers agree on a lot of stuff. One doesn't see them in other countries, like France, quarrel amongst themselves about unintelligible, nitpicky subjects. And they don't persecute each other in unseemly fashion before the law. So, the Pope sees the fact that he's praising Geneva, a country that is not Catholic, and he orders every good Catholic should burn the book. But the worst thing wasn't even in the article Geneva. It was on the front. Volume 7 was published in Prussia, with special thanks to King Frederick, a king of a country France was at war with. How this didn't get cancelled beyond me is ridiculous, probably because Twitter hadn't been invented yet. But at this point, it's too popular to stop. All this drama between the king, the Jesuits, and the Pope made it more noticeable. And honestly, most people liked the concept, including the king. He just liked flipping through it and being able to learn anything. He loved Wikipedia. So he said, okay, the concept is good, I hate some of the articles, but I think it should be finished. I'm getting political heat from the Catholics and the Jesuits, so you can't officially publish it in France. But if it ends up on Sci-Hub or a random cafe somewhere, I'm not going to penalise you for it. Because officially, you didn't publish anything, and we officially didn't approve it. And they published the next 10 volumes of the Encyclopedia without incident. So, what's the big deal about the Encyclopedia? Well, first of all, nobody had ever tried and succeeded to collate all of human knowledge into a single series of books. And also, this gave people regular access to the secret of trades like shoe shining, sword making, as well as thoughts on religion, stupidly obscure plants, and political ideas, like where power should really be based in a society. But that idea would take a couple of decades to really have an impact.